I have a friend whose father once told me that variety is the spice of life. And I've certainly found that to be true, especially when thinking about music and creating music and constantly writing or working on other people's music and that kind of thing. So because of that, I've also found it to be very beneficial to have a wide variety of genres of skills under my fingertips, to be able to play different styles of music, to be able to play different instruments. And in that, sort of a subset of that for me, primarily as a guitar player, is in the effects that I use. Now, of course, I have my bread and butter, what I always go to with overdrive and delay and reverb, but there are other things in there that I use all the time as well, occasionally chorus and compression and even flangers and phasers. But there's one that I think offers so much variety, and it's also the one that most people misunderstand, or they don't use or utilize to its full potential, or they just assume it's not for them. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 of my favorite ways to use fuzz. I'm going to use them some in tracks. I'm going to let you hear just the wide range of tones that you can get from a few of my favorite different fuzz pedals. So I'm headed home and we're going to start this video, so stay tuned. Alright, so here we are back in my home studio. So to better understand fuzz, I think we need a little bit of a history lesson. A guy by the name of Glenn Snoddy, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, was engineering a session for an artist named Marty Robbins. Now, there was a part where the guitar was going to play a solo, and the transformer in the console, I believe in that particular channel strip, something along those lines went bad. Because it went bad, all of this nasty clipping was what was heard, and what we would call fuzz. Now, if you go back and listen to the track Don't Worry by Marty Robbins, then you will hear this guitar solo. And for us, we just think it sounds like he kicked on a fuzz pedal. But back then, there was no context for this sound. This was truly revolutionary. And in fact, it was so revolutionary that Glenn was inundated with people asking him for a way to replicate the sound. So he did. The Maestro fuzz tone was the first fuzz pedal created, and it was the fuzz from which all other fuzzes would be birthed. Things like the tone bender and the fuzz face and the big muff would all come from this pedal. Fast forward 61 years later into 2021, where we currently sit, and we can see how fuzz has impacted rock music over generations. Not only early music from the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix, but even into the 90s and the grunge movement and Smashing Pumpkins and different bands like that. Modern players are guys like Jack White and Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys, and the list goes on and on and on. But it's still pretty polarizing, and you can listen to all of these artists that I just mentioned and hear a wide variety of fuzz tones. So today I'm going to take you through a few ways that I like to use fuzz. As I said, these are going to be 5 uses of fuzz. This is not a comprehensive list. These are just some of the ways that I really like to use fuzz. Now, if you don't like fuzz, maybe you've bought a fuzz pedal and you've tried it and you just thought, this isn't for me, I would encourage you to try different ones. I know going and sitting down at your local guitar store and trying a bunch of pedals may not be something you're able to do right now, but do a little bit of research, watch some YouTube videos on different types of fuzz pedals, and even some of the ones that I use in this demo may be some that you're more inclined to. So I'm going to take you through some of these tones, and I really do think there's something for everybody here. So before we go any further, if you don't mind, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and leave me a comment below. Let me know if these are tones that you enjoy, if these are ways that you use fuzz, and if not, why not? What are some of your favorite fuzz tones, or maybe are you still not sold on fuzz in general? Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's jump into the tones. So before I go any further in this video, I'm going to tell you the pedals that I will be using. These are some of my current favorite fuzzes that I use on my board and here in my home studio. So this is the Mythos Golden Fleece. It's a really, really killer little fuzz pedal. I'm a really big fan of it. As you can see, it's just got one knob labeled more, and it's essentially just a volume knob. Now, I really like this pedal because it cleans up super well. It's not a fuzz face circuit, but it kind of does the fuzz face sort of thing. It cleans up really well with your volume knob and kind of has that thick low end and sounds amazing with the Strat. But interestingly enough, it doesn't use silicone or germanium transistors. It's a kind of unique circuit in that way. I think this is a great fuzz for somebody that doesn't think they like fuzz. Now, another one that I'm going to be using that I think is also an excellent choice for someone new to fuzz is the JHS Kilt. Now, this is the version 2, so it has the red remote jack on the side, so you can actually use that to manually control via your foot the G2 toggle here on the side to kind of engage the fuzz circuit. And this is a really killer pedal for a lot of reasons. It does really great overdrive all the way to really thick, fuzzy distortion that you'll hear in this video. The gated fuzz on this is a favorite setting of mine. I've tried other gated fuzzes, and this is still the one to beat in my opinion. I think this is one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile, pedals that I own. Now, this last one may not be for people that don't like fuzz. This is the Walrus Audio Kangra Filter Fuzz. As you can see, it's got a fuzz side and a filter side. It's a really killer sound. It does a great octave fuzz, but let's not make any mistake about it. This thing is really gritty and nasty. Now, I think it works amazingly well in a track. As you can hear, there's no way to really get that tone without some sort of an octave fuzz, but I think that this one may not be suited for your first fuzz. I think it has some really killer tones, and hey, if you're into it, be sure to pick one up. It's certainly become a favorite pedal of mine. The filter side is also really cool. It's got a great envelope, or you can just set it to a flat frequency and kind of tailor the fuzz that way. So let's jump into some sounds. Alright, so for this first example, I'm using my Fender Telecaster into the Mythos Golden Fleece, and I will also be using the TC Electronics Flashback Mini for a little bit of slap back delay. So first thing, here's my clean tone. Here's the Mythos Golden Fleece, and I've got the volume knob set just above half, so it sounds like this. And here is the Flashback Mini for just a little bit of slap back delay to go with this riff. So that's a pretty typical use case for something that you would use a fuzz pedal for. You can hear it really helps thicken up the Telecaster, also gives it a little bit of cut, but it's got a ton of low end, and it works really well in this context in particular. So before we move on from the Golden Fleece, I want to show you another thing that I really like to use fuzz for. So number 2 is this use of a fuzz as kind of a transistory sort of overdrive. Pedals like the Hudson Broadcast and its different variations and the Seafoam Low Tide have really brought back to the forefront this kind of use of a almost kind of transistory overdrive tone. It's not smooth, it's not clean, it's not transparent, but it kind of has this really interesting breakup that you can actually achieve with a fuzz. So if we listen to the Golden Fleece again, here's my clean tone with my Strat. And here's the Golden Fleece, same settings as before. And here it is on my bridge humbucker of my Sir Classic Antique. You can hear, obviously, a fuzz, very dirty. But if I go back to my neck pickup again, full volume. And I back the volume off just a little bit. Here I'm at about 7, and I'm just going to pick a little lighter. And even when I dig in, you get this really nice kind of lightly broken up overdrive sound that's super cool. Again, I can dig in pretty hard here at 7. I'm going to go now to my bridge humbucker. And I can even play chords really effectively. Get some really nice breakup tones. So I'm going to slowly kind of inch it up. I'm just going to go from 7 to 8 to 9 and then back to 10. Again, I'm going to kind of pick lightly and pick hard so you can really hear how dynamic a fuzz pedal can be. Moving on to number 3. So outside of the usual riffing examples, another great way to use fuzz is for long, sustained lead lines. Guys like Eric Johnson would do this. He would use a fuzz face with a Strat to give him that really thick, almost violin or cello-like sustain, as would guys like David Gilmour. Now, unlike either of those guys, I'm going to be using my Gibson ES339 on this example. I'm also using the JHS Kilt, which, as I said earlier, does some excellent fuzz tones. Now on this one, I've got the gain maxed out and I've got both the G1 and G2 toggles up, which gives you this really thick gated fuzz, but in this setting, it just sustains for a long time. So when paired with some healthy delay and reverb, you can get tones like this. Those are some of my favorite fuzz sounds to use live in a wide variety of situations and genres. I think that use of fuzz for long sustain really goes beyond a lot of genres of music and can be used in a lot of contexts. Alright, so this is getting into the 4th way that I like to use fuzz, and this one's not going to be for everybody. But if you're already a fuzz user and you're kind of looking to maybe try out a different type of fuzz to really spice things up, I think the Walrus Audio Kangra can do just that. This is a really nasty octave fuzz, but if you're a session or touring musician, I think having something like this in your arsenal can be really valuable. You may only use it 10% of the time, but during that 10% of the time, it really, really can fit the part perfectly. So here's what it sounds like. This is my clean tone with my Gibson ES339. And here's the Walrus Audio Kangra that does not play nicely with chords. Now, this kind of octave fuzz is obviously really aggressive, really pokes out, and for most cases wouldn't be a go-to sound. But I want you to hear it in the context of this track that I recorded guitar on last year. Now, I can't say the name of the artist or anything like that yet because the song actually has not released yet, but I do want you to hear what this sounds like in the context of a mix. You'll hear my guitar playing this low riff, and really what I'm doing is playing this guitar using the Kangra, and I'm just really going between two notes just to kind of add some character to the chords. Playing a part similar to that. So check it out and how it sounds in the track. And let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think octave fuzz sounds terrible, or do you love it? I used to be one that hated it, but now I'm pretty sure I love it. For my final trick, if you will, I'm using my Sur Classic S Antique, which I did a video on. If you haven't seen, that's linked above here. You should watch it because this is a really killer sounding guitar. Now, I'm using this going into the Walrus Audio Kangra. Now, sometimes using an octave fuzz works really well in the studio, but can be harder to use live. This isn't just octave fuzz. This could go for any fuzz. Sometimes you have some really aggressive top end, or maybe you usually run into a really clean amp, so fuzz can be really aggressive. Now, you can still keep your clean amp tones, but if you are running your fuzz first in your chain, you can run it into your overdrive pedals. Now, this kind of simulates running a fuzz into a dirty amp, so you get kind of the same effect. It compresses it nicely and makes the tone overall maybe a little bit more usable in more contexts. So this is on the neck pickup, and this is what it sounds like going into just the Kangra by itself. Now, this is with the Swindler Effects Iron Drive, which is just kind of taking off some of that harsh top end. As you can hear, that really does tame that crazy bite that the Kangra has. You still get the same kind of effect and tonality without having all of the hard-hitting top end. Again, you may like it one way or the other, but running a fuzz into an overdrive can be very effective. Now, this is kind of 5.5 because I think it's sort of the same principle. And that's running a fuzz just into some sort of EQ. Obviously, the overdrive has kind of its own set EQ and flavor and that kind of thing. But the Kangra also has a built-in filter. Now, you can use it with or without the envelope. I really like it with the envelope because I think it opens up some really cool, almost funk kind of sounds that you can use. So, this is what it sounds like, again, on its own. And this is with the filter side of the Kangra engaged. And you can get some really cool tones if you run the Kangra into its filter and also into an overdrive. So this is what that sounds like. Again, using the Swindler Effects Iron Drive. This time I'm on the LED clipping mode. Last time I was on the silicon, which is a little bit closer to a tube screamer, but this mode is my favorite. I've also used this pedal a ton and did a review of it last year, which I will link above. But this is what it sounds like. Again, Kangra just into the filter side. And And this is what it sounds like going into the iron drive's LED mode. So guys, that is all for this video. Let me know any of your thoughts down in the comments below. What were your favorite tones? Which one of these pedals did you like the most? Was it the Kangra and that really aggressive octave fuzz sound? Maybe the Kilt with the more kind of big muff variation? Or was it the Golden Fleece with the classic sort of fuzz face vibe that I think they may have even improved on, even while getting away with one less knob? It's pretty incredible little pedal. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video.